does it make any basic difference? If it does not make any basic difference, then your argument.
Much obliged, Your Lordships. There is a humble submission that the degree of change in bioavailability is as high as 30%.
Can you claim that your medicine in your form, same medicine in the form introduced by you, will cure a patient 2 months earlier? Suppose a cancer patient is terminally ill and his life is enhanced by 2 months or 3 months because of your drug. We can understand that your drug has something new, because otherwise the patient would have died within 5 months. But because of administration of your drug, the patient is likely to live at least for 10 months and maybe beyond that. Then the therapeutic, efficacy of the drug, we can say it is enhanced. Because instead of 5, he will be with his family members for 10 months or maybe more. If that is not the case, then therapeutic efficacy of the drug, only because some form is changed, you will have to convince the bench.
Much obliged, Your Lordships. It is a humble submission that this is exactly what the counsels of the petitioners are trying to put forth before this on submissions, Your Lordships. Page number 27 of the written submissions, Your Lordships. Much obliged, Your Lordships. Just above para 62, Your Lordships, and if I may quote, this is from Martin's Physical Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences, Your Lordships, and I quote as thus: "Thus, bioavailability is concerned with how quickly and how much of a drug appears in the blood after a specific dose is administered. The bioavailability of a drug product often determines the therapeutic efficacy of that product because it affects the onset, intensity, duration of therapeutic response of the drug." Thus, it is a humble submission that if efficacy under section 3D is to be read as therapeutic efficacy, even then our clients satisfy the requirement of therapeutic efficacy, Your Lordships. Further, we'd like to humbly reiterate if Your Lordships have any more clarification.
What clinical tests you have carried out to prove the efficacy of the drug?
Your Lordships, there is no record that is being presented before the patent, the controller of patents, or before the ITB, or before Your Lordships, which provides a drug trial that actually proves what we are trying to put forth.
In the matter of Paradise versus Union of India and others, the council firstly seeks permission to address the bench as Your Lordships.
You appear on behalf of
The respondents,
Union of India.
Union of India, and also the generic companies who have filed the cross petition.
You are opposing grant of.
Indeed, yes, Your Lordships. Your Lordships, there have been mainly 5 issues which have been outlined in this instant matter. The first issue is whether this current petition is maintainable before this honorable court or not. The second issue is whether section 3D of the Patents Act 1970 is valid in view of the TRIPS agreement or not, an issue which was raised by the appellants but was not addressed during the oral arguments. The third issue is whether there has been enhancement of efficacy of the known substance under section 3D of the Patents Act. The fourth issue is whether the beta crystalline form of imatinib mesylate is a novel substance or not. The fifth and the last issue is that whether the beta crystalline form of imatinib mesylate is non-obvious to a person skilled in the art form or not. Your Lordships, the first counsel would be dealing with the first 3 issues, and my co-counsel would be addressing the last 2 issues. With your due permission, I would move to the first issue, Your Lordship. Your Lordships, at the outset, we are contending that this current petition which has been filed is not maintainable before this honorable court. This petition has been filed under Article 136 of the Constitution of India, which gives the Honorable Supreme Court to hear matters which have exceptional circumstances in them, and it is completely a discretionary power. It is completely up to the discretion of the court to decide whether this instant matter is worthy of being heard by this honorable court or not. However, we contend that the appellants have completely failed to highlight any exceptional circumstance which is present in this instant matter. The appellants had filed for a patent in the year 1995. From the year 1995, due to the mailbox arrangement, till the year 2005, they enjoyed exclusive marketing rights and due to this right, they were able to sell this product at a very high price as compared to the generic companies. Also, they have not availed alternate forums, alternate forums which are available to the appellants. The first alternate forum which was available to them was the IPAB. After the judgment of the IPAB was delivered in the year 2009, they had the right under Rule 23 of the IPAB Rules 2003 to file a review petition before the Honorable Intellectual Property Board. The other forum which was available before this, for the appellants to file.
Scope of review petition is very.
Your Lordship, Rule 23 expressly does not mention the scope of a review petition. It does not state whether the scope of review would be procedural or would it be substantive.
That has to be seen on the background of general law.
Indeed, yes, Your Lordship. But however, they did have a right to file a review petition against the judgment. Moving on, they also had the Honorable High Court of Mumbai, against which, in front of which court they could have filed a petition and contested the judgment which was delivered by the IPAB. There are a few important case laws which have been cited in the written submissions, Your Lordships. If Your Lordships would be kind enough to refer to page number 3 of the written submissions. The first important case is that of Novartis AG versus Union of India, a decision which has been delivered by this very honorable court. In this instant matter, Your Lordships, the special leave petition was admitted, but the Honorable Supreme Court expressly observed, and I would quote from the judgment, that however, we wish to make it clear that any attempt to challenge the IPAB order directly before this court, that is the Supreme Court, sidestepping the High Court, needs to be strongly discouraged, and this case is certainly not to be treated as a precedent in that regard. The next important case which has been cited is footnote number 22 on the same page, Your Lordships, a judgment of this very honorable court. Various judgments have been cited, one of which is Vallabh Das Agarwal versus State of Bihar. The principle which was laid down in this very judgment was that the Supreme Court would not entertain an appeal under Article 136 direct from a decision of a tribunal, while the effect thereof would be to bypass the High Court, from whose decision the appellant has preferred not to appeal. This judgment is trying to tell this honorable court that the Honorable Supreme Court would not entertain an appeal under Article 136 if the jurisdiction of the Honorable High Court has been bypassed and a direct appeal has been filed against the order of the tribunal before this honorable court.
That judgment is binding on.
I am sorry, Lordship, I did not get the question.
The ruling you have cited,
Indeed.
they are binding on us.
Your Lordship, since it is a division bench judgment, it is not binding upon this honorable bench, but however it is of persuasive value because the point of law which has been laid down is very clear, which states that the Honorable Supreme Court would not entertain petitions under Article 136 which are filed directly from the judgment of the tribunal.
This court has said it is to be discouraged.
Indeed.
It is prohibited.
Indeed, yes, Your Lordship.
Or not maintainable.
Indeed, yes,
Or
Your Lordship.
not legal.
Indeed, yes,
It
Your
is
Lordship.
to be discouraged. But in the peculiar circumstances of that case,
Indeed, yes,
the
Your Lordship.
petition was entertained and was decided on merits.
Indeed, yes, Your Lordship.
In this case also, similar situation has arisen when the application was lying in mailbox for 10 years
Indeed, yes, Your Lordship.
because of the expected changes in law.
Indeed, yes, Your Lordship.
After change in law, the petition was taken out from the mailbox and was heard and rejected.
Indeed, yes, Your Lordship.
So a lot of time of the petitioner was wasted not because of him, but because of certain changes which were likely to occur, and therefore because of mailbox system,
Indeed,
the petition remained in the mailbox.
Indeed, yes, Your Lordship.
Now, don't you think that similar situations have arisen where we can entertain the application instead of asking them to go back to High Court?
Indeed, yes, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, the point which has been raised by the
If you concede, then we can hear the petition. On
Indeed, yes,
merits
Your
here in this court itself.
Indeed, yes, Your Lordship.
That is why we have said in the objective that it should not be taken as precedent.
Indeed, yes, Your Lordship. Your Lordships, the point which is they would be deprived of the patent rights if they go back to a lower court, that would be the High Court. However, it needs to be observed from the facts which have been provided in the fact sheet that from the year 1999 to the year 2005, the appellants had all exclusive rights to market this product. A period of 6 years in which the price which was charged for this product was almost 6 to 7 times than the price which was being charged by the generic companies. Also, Your Lordship, the Honorable High Court has all powers to revert this matter back to the High Court and issue a direction that this matter be heard on a regular basis and be decided in a particular time frame. The Honorable Supreme Court has all powers to do so, Your Lordship, and hence we are contending that the appropriate forum, which would be the Honorable High Court, has not been exhausted, Your Lordship. If Your Lordships are satisfied with the submission regarding this issue, I will move to the next issue, Your Lordship. Your Lordships, the next issue being whether Section 3D is valid or not in light of the TRIPS agreement. This is an issue which was raised by the learned counsel of the appellants in the written submissions. However, they chose not to argue it during the oral arguments. What they're trying to say is, Your Lordships, that Article 3D would not be, or the patent law of India in general, would not be in consonance of the TRIPS agreement. However, we will try and prove before this Honorable Court that it is in consonance with the TRIPS agreement. There are three very important articles in the TRIPS agreement which need to be read to understand that patent law of India is consonance with the TRIPS agreement. The first important article being Article 1, which gives all member states the rights and powers to adopt and implement the provisions of the TRIPS agreement according to the domestic situations, the law prevailing and the economic and social conditions which are prevailing in the country who is a member of the TRIPS agreement has all rights to modify or to adopt the law provided for in the TRIPS agreement in such a manner that it is in consonance with the economic and social conditions of that particular country. The next important article is that of Article 27 of the TRIPS agreement, which lays down the criteria for a product to be patented. These three criteria which have been laid down in Article 27 are similar to the criteria which have been laid down in the patent law of India, which is the idea of an invention, industrial application, and also it has been expressly mentioned under Article 27 that Article 27 would be subject to paragraphs 2 and 3. Paragraph 2 specifically lays down the conditions in which the member states have all rights to exclude products from patentability, and these products are those which are medicinal in nature, are diagnostic or therapeutic in nature. And this is exactly the test which has been laid down under Section 3D of the Patents Act, Your Lordship. And another very important article, of the last article which I am going to cite from the TRIPS agreement, is that of Article 64. Your Lordships, Article 64 sets a dispute mechanism, a dispute settlement mechanism at the international level. And this article provides that if there is any dispute arising from the TRIPS agreement, any individual from the member country has all right to initiate proceedings before this dispute settlement mechanism, which has been established at the international level.
This Honorable Court, this is Counsel 2 from the respondents, and Counsel 2 would be addressing two issues before this Honorable Court. First, whether the alleged invention of the appellants is novel or not, and second, whether the alleged invention is obvious or not. Firstly, to address these two issues fully, two differences must be noted. First, the difference between patent eligibility and patentability. Patent eligibility relates to subject matter of patent, that is, whether something can be granted patent under the Patents Act 1970 or not. And this was what Counsel 1 addressed. He contended that due to Section 3D, such a compound is not patent eligible. This next set of arguments assume, for the purpose of argument, that these things are patent eligible. However, they would contend that they are not patentable because it is not an invention as defined under the Patents Act 1970. Now, second difference to be noted is the difference for dealing with novelty and non-obviousness separately, because of the inherent difference between novelty and non-obviousness. Now, novelty is a much narrower ground and non-obviousness is a much wider ground. While ascertaining novelty, what the patent controller does and what the honorable judges do is see whether the said invention is new or not. To see whether the said invention is new or not, we see whether it has been anticipated by a previous publication or not. And while adjudging this anticipation, the said invention is compared to a single reference. That is, if the contents of the said invention are contained in a single reference, it is not novel. For example, there is a compound called A plus B. and there are two separate patent applications, one for compound A and one for compound B, the patent would be said to be novel because none of them incorporate A plus B. However, it might be said to be obvious to a person skilled in the art because he must have studied A and B, and hence he must have derived at a compound which is the mere admixture of these two properties. That is, while judging non-obviousness, the courts and the controller of patents looks at all the prior arts and sees whether assimilating all the knowledge in the head of a person who does not have that scintilla of invention, he would have assimilated the said knowledge and come to this conclusion now. And therefore the narrow ground novelty is being addressed first. Now, coming specifically to the substantive arguments. That is, first, whether the said invention is novel or not. It is contended that in the light of prior art, the said invention is not novel. Now, Section 2L of the Patents Act 1970 defines what a new invention is, and I would read out the relevant portions. New invention means any invention or technology which has not been anticipated by publication in any document or used in the country or elsewhere in the world before the date of filing of the patent application with complete specification. That is, the subject matter has not fallen in public domain or it does not form part of the state of art. What is the state of art? Anything which was existing before the date on which patent application was filed. Such thing might be existing to the public, for example, in previous patent applications or in various publications in journals which are related to professional expertise, such as the prior art which is already available to the public. Now, we contend that the 1995 Zimmermann patent constitutes a prior art for imatinib mesylate. Now, before the breaking down of arguments would be two steps. First, it is contended by the appellant that the said substance, that known substance is imatinib. And there are two inventive steps. First, conversion to mesylate, and second, conversion to beta-crystalline form. The argument structure which the council would follow here right now is imatinib mesylate has already been anticipated by the Zimmermann patent, and converting that imatinib mesylate into a beta-crystalline form is something which anyone who is already skilled in the art can do. And therefore, both these arguments go together.
This was anticipated because it was in the earlier patent.
Mesylate was anticipated.
There is no doubt about it.
Indeed. Yeah.
But whether the people in the field of the pharmaceuticals, whether they anticipated that this can be converted into salt form and this will have little better efficacy as compared to the present form. If that was not anticipated and if that was never introduced before they introduced in the market, can we not say that they have introduced something new which was not known to you?
Now,
If the salt form has better efficacy, may not be enhanced efficacy, and if it was known to you, you did not introduce. You did not introduce means it was not known to you. If it was not known to you, that means it was not obvious. And therefore, you see, why patent should not have been granted to them.
Now, answering your question, Your Lordships. First, if I understand correctly, the question would be, if it was so anticipated, why did not you, the generic companies, put it in the market before Paradise? Now, by the appellants,
Generic companies are also selling salt form.
Indeed, Your Lordships, it has been clearly mentioned, and on the basis of those exclusive marketing rights, they stopped us from selling the salt forms which we were doing
Generic
before.
company,
Which
that went on for 10 years.
Which went on for 10 years. And second, Your Lordships, even if the generic companies would have invented the salt form and not Paradise INC, then even then the stand of the generic companies would have been that the said is not an invention. The stand of the generic companies would, I can assure that it would not have changed merely by changing the size on which they stand. Even if the generic companies in future discover a life-saving drug, which is very obvious to a person skilled in the art, there is no need for applying a said patent in line before the patent controller, then the IPAB, and then all the future tribunals to grant a patent for the said application. Now, here, answering in a different way, your lordships, that imatinib mesylate is novel. Is not novel in the light of the 1995 Zimmermann patent, and converting this imatinib mesylate into a beta crystalline form is obvious to a person skilled in the art. Now these two arguments go together, and unless both are proved, the argument of the council would fail. So coming to the first argument, that imatinib mesylate is known, and I will read the council would specifically from the 1995 Zimmermann patent application itself. On page number 3, the Zimmermann patent, the 1995 patent states, owing to the close relationship between the novel compounds in free form and in the form of their salts, including those salts that can be used as intermediaries, hereinafter any reference to the free compounds should be understood as including the corresponding salts wherever appropriate and expedient. For your lordship's reference, the relevant paragraph has been highlighted, your lordship.
This is application for Zimmermann patent.
The Zimmermann patent application itself, your lordships. And on the very last page of the Zimmermann patent application, where the US Trademark and Patent Office has prepared a summary, again I have highlighted the relevant portions. The patent has been granted for imatinib mesylate, and that is what has been clearly mentioned. Imatinib mesylate, bracket, Gleevec. And therefore, in light of this prior compound, the 1995 Zimmermann patent, this thing which was published prior to 1999 application, and hence it is a prior art, imatinib mesylate is clearly not novel. It was clearly existing before 1999. Mr. Zimmermann, who was working for Novartis, had clearly obtained a patent, as the records would show, and as has been given for your lordship's reference. And this is the first leg of the argument of the council, that this is not a novel invention. Converting imatinib into imatinib mesylate is something which was already done, and which could have been already done by many people, because it was a prior art. Now coming to the second fold of the argument, that converting this imatinib mesylate into a beta crystalline form is something which is very obvious to a person skilled in the art. That is, it is very obvious to a person who has all the knowledge which is existing before 99 about chemistry, and he could have converted it into a salt form.
The appellants would humbly beg to state that the appellants have been really disappointed in the fact that a pertinent question of law being posed by the bench has not been effectively answered in this volley between the appellants and the respondents. In the three issues, firstly, your lordship, the prior art references repeatedly made by the respondents have completely referred to the Zimmermann patent to establish their case. However, your lordship, the Zimmermann patent granted in 1993 was exclusive to the case of Novartis AG versus Union of India. Whereas the fact situation today we are dealing with is Paradise and others versus Union of India, for which the concerned document of prior disclosure is the patent application of 95. These two patent applications are entirely different. The fact sheet remains silent so as to the disclosures made in the 95 patent. Hence, any assumption so as to the disclosure in that particular prior art stands invalid. Secondly, your lordship, a simple question posed by the bench to me, which I...
What is the date of your application?
Much obliged, your lordship. 95 was the particular prior art
What
document.
is the date of grant of patent to Zimmermann?
I beg your pardon.
What is the date on which the Zimmermann
93, your lordship, 1993. Zimmermann patent for Novartis AG.
Before you apply for patent.
Much obliged, your lordship. There are two entirely different cases with different parties involved. That is Novartis AG, this is Paradise Chemicals, and two different countries. Your lordship, the second most pertinent question posed to me by the bench in one sentence. Your lordship, you had asked me back then, in terms of therapeutic efficiency, whether it will cure a patient earlier or not. Your lordship, to answer this in one word, my answer is yes. Let me substantiate the point, your lordship. The two compounds in question are freebase imatinib and beta crystalline salt form of imatinib mesylate. A basic form, it is well-known knowledge in the medical field that a salt form is superior to the basic form in terms of its physical property. In order to administer the medicine in its solid oral dosage form, it is an imperative to convert it into a salt form. A basic form does not serve the purpose to start with. Secondly, to get into the whole efficacious argument in its technicality, bioavailability was the term much debated upon, and Council once again submits, in case of any vagueness, ambiguity, Council would be more than pleased to reply to the same. On the definition of bioavailability, I would quote straight from the written submissions at page number 26. Bioavailability has been defined as, and I quote, the proportion of a drug which reaches its site of pharmacological activity when introduced into the body more loosely than proportion of any substance so introduced which enters the circulation. For the convenience of the understanding of the bench as well as members present in this august courtroom, I would draw an analogy. Your Lordship, let's take a simple analogy of washing clothes. If I take one shirt and insert one cap of washing powder into it, the cleaning ability, the end product which we have, the moment I insert two caps of the same washing powder in it, there is no doubt to the fact that it cleans it more effectively because you have more compound, more amount of the material targeting the targeting tissue. Hence, it is nowhere mentioned in clear black and white language that you have higher efficacy. By going by the same analogy, once you know that you attack the same tissue at a higher effective rate, drawing straight from the definition of bioavailability, it has 30% more bioavailability, Your Lordship, a point which has not been debated by the respondents so far. Hence, going by the same analogy, taking a larger leg of it, the simple mechanism by which our compound here is working is it is attacking the target tissue at a rate 30% more intense in common man's language to attack the tissues, and thereby that is the exact difference it is making to the improvement of the patient's health condition as such. Before moving on, the third major rebuttal which we have, Your Lordship, is pertaining to the SLP which shall be dealt by my co-counsel in short a minute. Before that, Your Lordship, the prayer of the respondents duly had mentioned in clear unambiguous terms that they wish for the appeal to be dismissed. However, I would humbly submit and bring it to the notice of the court that the SLP has already been admitted and we are now at the stage of final hearing. Looking at the point of view of the SLP question in particular, just a minute for my co-counsel. Much obliged, Your Lordship.
One question.
Yes, Your Lordship.
What you say QR drug is more effective? What is the percentage of more effectiveness as compared to the earlier form?
Much obliged, Your Lordship. 30%.
30% more.
Yes, Your Lordship.
Now, in case suppose your drug is patented, let us assume 30% it is there. We don't give any finding on that.
Yes.
That finding is reserved. But let us assume what you say is correct. That 30% more effectiveness is there in your salt form of drug. And patent is given to you by the controller. Then the generic forms will be out of market. They will not be available to common men. Now look at the problem from socio-economic point of view. There may be patients with tumors whose tumors don't require your form, whose tumors maybe can be treated with the earlier form of the drug, where there is no salt form. You followed me? The drug is same. Drug is not changed. Only form is changed. Now, so let us see that 70% patient can be treated with the earlier form of the same drug, and 30% patient require a little improved version of the same drug. And if a patent is given to one company, the rest of the companies will be out of market. And the poor and economically downtrodden people will not be able to purchase your patented drug, which is 10 times more costlier to the generic.
Much obliged, Your Lordship.
In these conditions, what court can do? Tell us.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. Your question.
Filed by the honourable respondents against the very order of the
Better you take this file petition. Therefore, you don't address us on that.
much obliged.
5 minutes exercise. That also.
If I may just
5
address.
minutes each are given to the two lawyers.
It is the humble submission that what we are asking for today before your lordships is a narrow patent that only and only covers the beta crystalline form of imatinib myceliate, your lordships.
This is already addressed to a considerable length, and not further.
Yes, indeed, your lordships. To answer the question posed by your lordships to my learned co-counsel, your lordships, it is a humble submission that the generic manufacturers can research on the 1995 patent granted in Swiss and come out with their own new form of drug, your lordships, and that will not be that will not be covered by the impugned patent application, your lordships. Thus, all we are asking for today before your lordships is a narrow patent only and only for the beta crystalline salt form of imatinib mycelium.
You mean to say that till then we should allow you to exploit the poor people or what?
Indeed not,